Hello, hello. So welcome to Ask Me Anything. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes just to make sure the feed is going live. It's always about 10 seconds behind or so when I'm using the streaming software. So just make sure it's all good and hopefully wait for a few people to arrive and then I'll start answering some questions. So happy Thursday to everyone who's hanging around today. The idea is I'm going to basically tell you anything you want to know about outsourcing your work, working with virtual assistants, freeing yourself entirely from the day-to-day operations of your business. I have got property businesses. I've also got an online coaching business. We've got 120 plus 130 now clients that we work with across all different industries. So a lot of experience on outsourcing all sorts of tasks, pretty much every task in your business. And my challenge is for you to ask me questions to help you along your way. So I'm just waiting to see that the feed is actually going live into the group. And I can't see it on my phone. So if you're watching this and you can see me, if you just ping a message into the chat box, make sure that everything is going well. Yes, we are people. Okay, good. I can see that I'm actually live in the group now, so I'll actually start talking properly. Good, well, welcome. So yeah, the idea of this session is to answer your questions. So I need your questions to be able to answer them. I've already had some questions in. So Angie has Angela has very nicely posted a couple of questions up front. I've also got some common questions we get asked that I can go through. Hopefully as I answer those, it's going to give you some inspiration to bring forth your own questions as well. And I'll do my best to get through everything. I'm not really putting a time limit on this. I'll see how we go, see what interaction there is. And again, if this is a really popular thing and you get a lot of benefit from it, please comment below and tell me so, because then I'll do more of these sessions for you guys. Okay, that's it. So let's get started. So first question, I've got the questions written here, so apologies if I'm just staring while I read off it. So Angela asked me a couple of things. I've reordered them slightly just to make it a little bit more flow better, if you like, as I'm going through the answers. So this is a common problem that people have, which is about how to deal with communications coming in from clients or tenants or customers or potential customers. So people asking you questions, or it could be service desk type things. So when people have problems and they're basically just reaching out to you and need your input. It doesn't matter where they're coming from. So it could be from an email, it could be from a form on your website, it could be from Facebook, it could be from WhatsApp. The idea is that someone's asking you a question and you've got to answer that. And the ideal thing is that you're not involved in that process and you can get somebody else to outsource, to outsource it to somebody else so they can do the answering on your behalf in the vast majority of cases. This is what we do in our business and this is what we train our clients to do. So I want to cover this one first. I think it's a really good one. Now, very specifically, Angela asked about WhatsApp. So I'm going to cover how you outsource someone using your WhatsApp account. So I've got my phone here, which I've just closed down WhatsApp annoyingly. There it is. And so when you have your WhatsApp app, and I'll show you this in a minute, hopefully it'll show up on screen so you can actually see it. The key is that if you're using WhatsApp for business, I would highly recommend you get another phone. Phones are cheap as chips these days, and so are SIM cards, and just get yourself a business number. You can then give that to clients or to your tenants or whatever, so they can actually ring you as well, and you can turn it off and have a voicemail directing them to your website or whatever, or an emergency number if it's out of hours. It's a really useful thing to be able to do to separate personal life and business life. So getting a new number is a massive step forward to doing that. You can also link a WhatsApp account purely to that business number. And that means you can then, without sort of letting somebody access everything else that you do on your WhatsApp, you can then give somebody else access to log into your WhatsApp account for you. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. And then on your behalf, send replies. And I'll show you how you can systemise the whole reply sending process as well, so you can step out of that and trust that people are going to answer your queries and people's problems in the same way that you would have done if you were doing it yourself. This means you can stop answering people's messages at silly o'clock in the morning when they've got problems with, for tenants especially, things always go wrong in the middle of the night or on weekends or bank holidays or when you're on holiday. So you need to offload that to somebody else. So first of all, WhatsApp. I'm just going to share my screen and just flick over to the right one. Okay, so hopefully you can now share my screen. Thanks, Sarah, by the way, for saying you can see me. I've just spotted that message. That's very kind. So hopefully you can see my screen now, and on there is the WhatsApp web app. It's web.whatsapp.com, and that basically opens up this screen. It's got this QR code here. Now, if I was to click this here, which I'm going to do now, if any of you held up your phone, don't do this. But any of you held up your phone to the screen now and zap that with your phone in the way I'm going to show you, I would then be able to access your WhatsApp account on my computer. It's on the screen, but it's just an image. And this is exactly how you get your assistant or virtual assistant or whoever it is that you're going to hand this responsibility over to. That's how you get them to access your account. It does sign out now and again, and you've got to basically keep this box saying, keep me signed in. Now and again, the cookies get cleared or whatever, and you have to redo this, but it normally lasts for quite a long time before you need to reset it. And it's going to be slightly challenging because I just need to see that it focuses on my phone. So I've basically opened up WhatsApp on my phone. Just give it a second to tune in. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Let me hold it the way around. Click this, oh no, got it wrong. Click this button here, 3 dots, and it opens up a menu. And on there is WhatsApp web, which I just have to read to be able to do it. Click WhatsApp web, and then click the little plus sign. The plus sign, I've now got a QR reader, so I'm going to hold this up to my computer. So I'm basically going to turn my phone around and hold it up to the computer that scans that code. And you see now that's instantly logged in. And if someone's asked me about this message saying yes. So someone's asked me about this event. So there you go. So now I'm logged into my phone. I'm just going to close that down purely because I don't want to read all my private messages. But that's how you do it. And now my browser is linked to my phone. That browser could be on anyone's computer in the world. It just means that now they can access your account. Again, that's why it's good to have a business, because then they can only see the stuff related to the business. So therefore you don't show them all of your private personal messages as well. So that was the first point I wanted to make. Just give me 2 seconds while I look at my list of things I wanted to tell you. Okay, so that's how you give access on WhatsApp. Just 1 second, I've got a message here. Okay, I've got someone asking me about this event. I'm just going to crack on. Sorry about that. Okay, so basically they have access. So that can work for WhatsApp. For Facebook, you can basically allow them to log into your Facebook account. If you use something called a VPN, a virtual private network, it means that it doesn't matter where they are in the world, they can log in, and the computer thinks they're in the UK or wherever you're based, and therefore Facebook doesn't kick up a security alert and basically kick them out or prevent or lock your account. And that happens if you don't use a virtual private network, as Facebook thinks, oh, you've been hacked and someone's accessing you from the Philippines or wherever it is that your assistants are based. So use a VPN if you're going to use Facebook, and then you can just share your login details using an app such as LastPass, which allows you to share logins, but without actually giving the password actually open, like sharing a password over the internet, which is obviously very insecure. Little caveat, a little thing to note, it's not 100% secure. They can still get your password. So if that person left your company, I would just advise just changing your passwords as a security measure anyway. So always have that in the back of your mind. But it's a really cool way to share logins via LastPass for any type of thing. So with email, you delegate the email account. Never share access to your main email account with somebody by giving them the password. Instead, use the delegated email function, which all decent, like Google Mail, Microsoft Outlook, whatever, they all allow you to delegate. And what that means is the person can read your emails and reply on your behalf, but they can't have access to the rest of your account settings. And also, when they send an email, it will say sent on behalf of. And that means that somebody opened that email will see that it's not you personally sending it, and they shouldn't then sell all your shares and transfer it to a Cayman Island account or whatever these criminals do these days. So it's really important that you delegate and don't just give your password to your email account. So once all these things are the same, it's basically messages coming in, and now you want to provide answers. And so how you actually provide those answers, or get somebody else, to provide those answers for you, is using 2 things. One is by creating an FAQ, and this is the simplest form for, say, your WhatsApp or your knowledge-based questions, so customer queries. And again, I'll just share my screen and show you our FAQ. So this is an FAQ we've got for our Systems for Outsourcing program, for our clients, and also for people asking about our program. And there's 91 pages of questions that have ever come up that basically we've answered, or our staff have answered on our behalf, and then we record the template answers in here and just scrolling down to show you the pages and pages of stuff. And it just means that whoever's then manning the phone on that day or manning the help desk on that day, they simply find the question that's relevant by doing a search. And this is a simple, free way to do this. You can use expensive knowledge-based software to do this much more slickly, and we're moving over to that now, but we've not found the need up until having this sort of volume of Q&As. It's slightly laborious now, and therefore at this stage, yeah, we are going to move over. But we've been doing this for 3 years before we got to the point where we felt it was necessary. The point is to just basically do a Control F, and then you can basically find, so if I just type in the word recruitment, there's probably a few things about recruitment. Yeah, and there you go. So basically I can scan down and find the most relevant thing, most relevant question and answer, and then they will basically ping that over on your behalf. So that person has then answered the question in the same way you would have done. They need an ounce of common sense to make it sound a bit more personal, and don't just basically cut and paste an answer that's simply written for somebody else. But so you need someone with a bit of common sense just to be able to make it sound natural. But anyway, the knowledge is there that you've saved in your FAQs. That's the first thing, and that's something you can build up, or you already have most of this. If you already have a business, then actually you can really simply create one of these by giving someone access, like I just did then, to WhatsApp or to emails, and they can go through all the previous questions that you've ever been asked that you've typed an answer to. And therefore they can actually extract the question, extract what you type. So you don't have to redo any of this stuff. You've probably got all of the 90% of the questions that you're ever going to be asked if you've been in business more than a couple of years. Most of the questions are already going to be answered. So you've got all that information, and your job would then be just to make sure that there hasn't been any major changes, and just to keep that up to date, and just scan over it now and again to make sure that what's in your FAQ is still valid. And that's it really. It's so much easier than having to start from scratch. But if you are starting this from scratch, then fine. Every time you answer a question, you add it to your FAQ. Ideally, you get your virtual assistant to basically open your email or your WhatsApp, ping the message to say, look, what's the answer to this question? You can then reply. If they can't do it themselves, of course. If they can do it themselves, then great, let them get on with it. If they can't, then you basically reply for them, and then they add it to the FAQ to take that step out of your life as well. The second thing is about processing emails mainly, but it also works for other types of queries. And this FAQ is great if it's just a question, but sometimes there's a action that happens, or you need to file something like an attachment. And so having a rule sheet to say, look, when somebody from this email address, which is the column, sends over, the email address, the sender, the subject, and then you've got basically what action is taken here, and then where you want to actually save any documents to, and that's basically all you need. So that allows anybody to process your emails specifically, but also other types of messages, and then reply using the FAQ on your behalf without your involvement. And that's basically how you outsource your comms. We've got a free guide on this. I'm just going to paste a link in to the Facebook page. So hopefully, right, I'm going to paste a link in here. So let me just type this: guide to outsourcing. Oops. Very professional, this, isn't it? Outsourcing your comms. There you go. So I'll just put a link in there. It's just a free guide. Just put your email address in and download it, and it just gives you a 10-step guide to actually doing this now. So you can get that, and it might help you. Cool. Okay, next question. Anything else I wanted to say on that side of stuff actually first? No, I think that's it. Okay, next question. how to systemize, sorry, probably thought I was frozen then, but no, I was just reading. How to systemize and manage your property rental business. Now, if you're not in property, then just bear with this for a minute. I'll do this as quickly as possible. And the reason I'm going to fly over this is I've just spoken to a colleague or a good friend and actually a previous client of ours called Stephen Lai, who runs a company called Super Developments, which basically looks at creating CRMs and systemizing property businesses specifically. So we're going to do one of these live streams, a big Q&A session in the next week or so, specifically on outsourcing property management, going through the whole lot. So I'm going to go over this right now really quickly, just because I promised I would answer this question, but I'll be posting shortly in the group about how you can access that. Again, it'll be one of these free sessions, just a live stream, so you can come along to that and you can watch it afterwards if you can't make it. So let me just find what I was going to show you on here. Okay, so I have a probably the answer I'm going to give you isn't probably the one you expected for this, which is for most property businesses, I don't suggest you start managing your own properties. When I started in property 2002, so quite a long time, nearly 20 years ago now, I basically did everything myself, and it just meant I was working every hour God sent. I was working myself into an early grave, totally exhausted, overwhelmed, doing most things really badly because I was just trying to do far too much of the stuff myself. And just things like having to keep up with legislation and create documents and all that stuff that tenancies require is a huge amount of work. And let me just share this screen with you again. So this is the brainstorm we've done for that session. Myself and Stephen Lai are going to be doing very shortly. And this is the lettings and management side of stuff. And this is things like, I'm just going to rattle through this: tenant disputes, welcome packs, collecting rent, regular inspections, property maintenance, communications with tenants, covering holidays, or what you do when you're actually away, time to learn and keep up to date on all the legislation and everything that's required, the actual advertising of your properties, doing the actual viewings themselves, vetting, ASTs, all of that sort of stuff. So ASTs, so creating tenancy agreements, sorry for using acronyms. For managing a tenancy and finding tenants and all the rest of it, it's a full-time job basically. And if that's what you want to be, if you want to be a lettings manager, then brilliant. Then you can put the time and effort into systemizing every single part of the process. I'm going to talk about how you can systemize stuff generally, and you can apply that in a second to all those different things. However, I would strongly advise, I'm just going to press present to make it a little bit nicer. So I would strongly advise that you don't do any of that, because as a property investor, the way a property investor makes money is not by saving 10% on rent by not using a letting agent, or 10, 15% or whatever you're going to pay. The way you make money as a property investor is to have more properties. It's that simple. With capital appreciation over time, and yes, it goes up and down, but over time there's a trend for the past couple of 100 years of it going up significantly. And you basically earn money by sitting around doing absolutely nothing, as long as you can pay your mortgages by getting them let. Secondly, the more properties you have, the more rooms you have to let, or the more houses you have to let, therefore the more income you have. And also, obviously, the more properties you have, the more capital goes up, as I've just mentioned. So your key and only real role as a property investor should be buying properties. It's that simple. But there's a couple of things you need to be able to do to buy properties. And you need to put brand in there as well, and we'll discuss that on the next session. But acquisition, so finding properties and analysing those deals and then actually purchasing them, so going through that process of remortgage, etc. Mortgaging, etc. You then got funding, so keeping in contact with investors, building up that investor portfolio, making sure you've got a stream of money coming in so you can actually keep buying the properties that you are actually finding. And then lastly, there is the portfolio management side of stuff. And this is the stuff that a letting agent won't do for you. This is the stuff that I still do in my portfolio, even though I use letting agents for the day-to-day running of my tenancies. And it's this stuff, the property portfolio management, the property acquisition, and the funding is where I believe you should focus all your time on systemizing. Because if you can get rid of all this stuff, you really have a hands-off portfolio, a hands-off business. And then you can then spend all your time on basically meeting investors, getting money in, and then doing that final analysis and buying those properties. If you can just focus on those two things, then that allows you to grow your portfolio exponentially because everything else is taken care of. If not, the bigger your portfolio gets, the more management you have to do, and therefore the less time you have to do the two things you should be doing, which is buying and paying for properties. It's that simple. So I'm going to give you some examples on how you'd actually, so I'm going to explain now how you'd actually outsource some of these steps. So very specifically, outsourcing your sourcing. So sourcing properties, when you go onto a website like Rightmove and you basically find a property that you like look of, hopefully you can actually go through agents and get it before it even hits Rightmove. But the point is, you're finding a property and now you've got to work out, is that property worth your time? Should you be investing your money into it to develop it to then let it out? And that requires research. And that research is often about figuring out the potential value of that property by looking for a number of comparable properties in the area. To do that just takes time. It's a simple task. You go onto websites like Rightmove, like Mouseprice, like Zoopla. You find properties that are sold in the area that are similar. You work out how much a price per square foot is, then you can work out how much your property is potentially going to be worth. Or if it's a house of multiple occupancy, HMO, then you can look for comparable properties that are sold in the area. And again, it's just a numbers game. Can you get 20 properties that are comparable to give you a really good estimate? And this is the first task I ever outsourced. I'll just switch this off for a second. So the first task I ever outsourced was doing this property sourcing part. And all I did was to record myself going onto Rightmove and putting the criteria in and finding the properties and then transferring that information to a web sheet. Once I got that video, just showing someone how to do it, I sent it over to a virtual assistant and said, can you find me 20 of the same? I've slightly condensed that, but that's pretty much what I did. And that meant at the time when I was doing a lot of property investing, I'm focused purely on systems and outsourcing now, but at the time I was doing property investing, I was spending about an hour, maybe a bit longer, every single day on average, doing just that one task. So outsourcing that one simple task saved me an hour a day, 5 hours a week, 240-ish hours a working year. That's 6 weeks of time saved by outsourcing that one task. So that's the power of outsourcing if you pick your tasks really well on what you're going to outsource. And so that brings me seamlessly onto my next point, which is what should you outsource first? And I get asked this question all the time. You know, what should I outsource for to my business? Can you give me a list of things to outsource? And you see people pasting stuff about, you know, oh, these are the tasks you should outsource or whatever. And personally, I think all of that is nonsense. Unless you're already established as a business with outsourcing, with systems in place, and now you're looking for inspiration about what more you could do, about what more you could offload and needing advice and guidance on how you get somebody to do the more complex stuff in your business, then that's brilliant. Those lists are then quite helpful. But it's really simple. What you need to outsource first is totally unique to you. And the way you work this out is really quite simple. You simply put the start time and the end time and of a task you do. You note down on a spreadsheet or use an app like Google or Toggle or Harvest, and basically record how long each task is taking you every day. The start time, end time, and gives you the total time taken. Add those up at the end of a week or ideally a month, and you can see over a normal month, this task took me this long. Therefore, it's a really important task that get outsourced first because it's taking up 20% of my life. So you end up with something like this, which is this is just visualizing it. But you end up with tasks that are taking you a long time and tasks that are taking you a short time. So that's the top two. And then the bottom two are how complex are they? Are they very the left-hand side are they simple tasks or are they complex tasks? And what you want to look for is the tasks that are taking you a long time that are simple to outsource. And again, it's simple. Where simple is what you think you could outsource easily. Because if you can get rid of that stuff, you've freed up huge amounts of time, and then you can get on with outsourcing more and more complex stuff and think about the rest of your business. So it's not probably answer you exactly to you expected, but that is the way I went about systemizing and outsourcing my property, and that freed me up to, I spend about 1% of the time I used to spend on my properties now dealing with my property management, because it's all taken care of between my letting agents and my PA who uses all the systems I've created to manage my letting agents and do all the other stuff that only I can do, like HMO license renewals and stuff. She takes care of all of that and all the time consuming stuff that comes up. So that's how I suggest that anyone, you want to figure when should you start outsourcing your own property management. My business partner's got 96 properties, so he does all of it in-house, and that's totally justified because he saves a whack of money every year by doing it in-house. I reckon about 200 grand revenue a year is a good ballpark figure, because when you work out the cost of having assistants and also the time taken to build up your own systems to outsource property, that's the sort of figure you need to be out before it's worthwhile to actually start bringing it in-house. And by that point, you've got a decent property portfolio, so therefore you can spend a bit more of your time on the property management, because you've already hopefully systemised all of your property acquisition and all of your portfolio management. So I hope that helps. Another question here. I'm going to see if there's any more questions in the groups on people live. Can I see all the questions here? Okay, cool. So I'll go back to, I've got another question from Angela in a minute, but I'll come back to that. We're trying to transfer, this is a question from Heather. Hi Heather. We're trying to transfer all our files to Google Drive from OneDrive. I noticed that when I added Google Drive as the cloud storage, it only showed up my own drive and not the shared drives I had set up. Is this normal? Is there any way to include the shared drives so they can be included in backups? Yes, there is. It is all down to what app you're using for your backups. So I'm not 100% sure what you're trying to do. If it's transferring our files to Google Drive from OneDrive, yeah, it's the transfer app you're using or the backup app you're using. So I think Adam, my business partner, Adam Williams, can just clarify this if you ping him a message at any time. But we use Backupify as far as I know now. And that one does that. So that will then give you the option to select your shared drives. So that's purely around what app you're using for doing that. Here's another question. We've been using Podio as a CRM for contacts, logging our own portfolio, property info, and pipeline for property viewings and offers. Wondering about Asana, having heard everyone rave about it. Will it do that as well as task management? I don't really want to have more apps than necessary. Yeah, let me just read what you do in it. So Asana isn't a CRM. In the simplest form, to answer your question, the simplest, shortest way, Podio is, for those that don't know, is a brilliant platform where you can basically create your own apps almost and bring in modules. So I want a CRM, I want a pipeline, and it's a very visual thing. And so for what you're doing there, Sarah, I would say that Podio is perfect. But we have clients that use Podio for their property management, but Asana is how they manage their team, because Asana is a brilliant app for task management. I'll show you that. I'll show you briefly in a second on my screen. I've got that prepared so I can show you everybody sort of from a task management point of view. But also it for internal communications, for task delegation, task management, internal comms are three main ones. But also it's very, very flexible, as is Podio. And if the task management side of Podio was as good, I would say, Podio is brilliant. But we have clients, as I said, who have Podio and then still use Asana for task and delegation and management. It's a tricky one to answer without sort of doing a demo and having a look exactly what your setup is and showing you the benefits or not of Asana. But in a nutshell, yeah, don't just ditch all that hard work you've put in, but consider maybe looking at Asana as a way to manage your team rather than your business, that's your property business, because that's already set up by the sounds of it. Cool, yeah, please keep comments coming. Why can I only see a couple of comments? Just 1 second, I'm just trying to figure out why I can only see 4 comments, but not all of them. Not quite sure. Let me go into the group. Just bear with me 1 second. Sorry about this little technical glitch. No, I can only see 4 comments, which is quite frustrating because there's 9 comments on there. Okay, if you've asked a question and you're not Sarah or Heather, just copy and paste it again for me. And it may be because my video is not live. How can I see them? This is a good point. I'll tell you what, I'm going to just post in another post now because it's on a live video. Put your questions here. It's going to be slightly frustrating. Sorry about this technical glitch. First time I've done this as a Q&A live stream. So if you put your questions on that thread, I've literally just posted into the group now. I'll then be able to see them all. The problem is, because it's on a timer, it's not showing up. But here we go. Assume you've not seen mine. Debo, no, I haven't. Heather, you're talking about multi-cloud. They're popping up now, but yeah, just pop them into that thread above if you can, and I can definitely see them then. For some reason, it's only showing me 4. I don't know why. The joys of using things, using Facebook Live, but there you go. Multi-cloud. You were talking about multi-cloud. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head if multi-cloud allows you to do that or not. I think, I'm pretty sure, Heather, that Backupify does allow you to do that. That's all I can say. Here we go. How long is the process of hiring a VA? So this is Daniel Budden. Thanks for this. How long is the process of hiring a VA? Obviously, depending on what task, but how long will you spend searching for the right VA? Depends how you do it, in short. So we've got a pretty systemized approach to hiring. We can hire almost any number of virtual assistants we need with only a couple of hours of actual work. The actual process from start to finish takes roughly about 5 or 6 days, maybe even as long as 7 or 10 days, because of the steps we get the applicants to take as we filter them down. But the work actually done by us, because it's all very much very systemized, is very, very short. And I'll try and do this quite briefly, but I'll give you a whistle-stop tour through. And again, I'll be doing a live on this in the near future when we'll be launching a hiring in a basic hiring system in a box in the next few weeks. And so I'll do some posts about this as well. But in the meantime, first of all, you need to, let me think, okay, 2 questions. Where are you going to hire a VA from? If you're going to hire someone from the Philippines, I'd recommend using a site called Online Jobs PH. If you're doing it from the UK, then there's People Per Hour and Upwork, which are both great sites. The great thing about onlinejobs.ph is it allows you to paste a live link into the advert itself or the job posting itself. And what that allows you to do is to have rather than you saying, hey, here's my job, look at all the stuff that you're gonna, benefits of working for me, here's the pay rate, can you do this job? And they apply on the system, and they basically fill in their details, and you have to then flick through hundreds of applicants, or even worse, they send you a bunch of CVs, and you have to then go through all these CVs, all different formats, and it's impossible to then actually outsource that process because it's so personal about what you're looking for when you're looking through this mess of information that you're getting sent in a very disorganized way through CVs and the like. So when we do our hiring, we use a Google form. We don't look at a single CV, we don't look at a single application form on a website. We just say, if you want this job, click this link. That link takes them to a Google form, and the first about 10 questions, maybe slightly more, are all numeric or yes/no questions, and they have cut-off points. So for example, we ask people what their typing speed is, and we get them to do a typing test and then put their results into the box. And then if they have a typing speed, I do it below about 35 words per minute. If they have a typing speed below that, then they just don't get the job. Because for me, I want people that can be able to type fast, because it means they're computer savvy. It's a really easy discriminating, is that the right word? Differentiating factor. And so having lots of questions like this, like internet speed as well, age of computer, there are loads of things you can ask, that yes and no and numeric. You can then basically whittle down about 90% of your applicants without ever reading a word of what they've got to say about themselves, because they're not suitable for the job you have in mind for them. So whatever the role is, it will be different, the type of questions you ask, but think very hard about how you can just eliminate. And your recruitment process isn't about picking an eagle from a haystack or finding the best of of them all. Just think of it of eliminating until you've got one left. It's like survival of the fittest. And if you go from that angle, it's much quicker to whittle down than it is to go, oh, that one looks okay, or that one looks okay. So you're basically getting rid. And what you end up with is a bunch, say maybe if you have, so you get between about 200 and 1,000 applicants these days on a good job posting. Say if you had about 500, this process will take you down to about 20 if you get it right. And you can always move the barrier to entry up a bit to whittle it down even further, so you've got sort of the cream left of the applicants. The next thing to do is to send them a test task, and that test task is something similar to the work you want them to do. So this is the specific sort of trial for the role, it's a specific role that they're applying for. If it's a video editor you want, ask them to edit a video. If it's a copywriter, ask them to write some copy. If it's an admin person, ask them to do an admin task. Make the task really as short as possible, but really specific. And what you're looking for is somebody that can listen to instructions, deliver on what you've asked them in exactly the way you asked them for. So be really specific about what you want and where you want it, how long it should, when it should be delivered, how long it should take, all these things, be really specific. They then give you their results. You then mark those in a standardized way against each other, and that gives you a tiny short list of, say, 5 people. Ping them over a video saying, hey, well done, you passed all the interview stages or all the application stages. Now it's time for your interview. Can you answer these 5 questions in under 5 minutes and send the video back to me? You record that interview, send it to them. They record their answer back in under 5 minutes. You then watch that on double speed, and you've interviewed all your applicants in 2.5 minutes. So once this is set up, you can basically then hire as many people as you need for any role. And ultimately, my role in hiring our team members now takes less than 2.5 minutes per person, because I just quickly watch the video to make sure that I'm happy with them before they go ahead. And that's it. So hopefully, so how long is the hiring process? Hopefully that answers that question. Let me know if there's any other questions. There's no questions in the one above. I don't know if you spotted that or not, but there's 12 comments here now and I can't see them all. Let me see if I play this video, if it'll allow me to see them all. No, so if I've not answered, so Debo, I've not seen your question, I'm really sorry. Just copy and paste it above and I will answer it now. I've put your questions here. I'll show you now on my screen. I'll just transition this. So just here, I've put this thread here. So as you can see, there's me and there's the questions I can see, and for some reason I can't see anymore. But now, hopefully, Deborah, can I see yours? Hopefully it'll come up in a second. I can see it there because I've just seen you've actually posted it. Let me just refresh this and see if it comes up. Okay. Yes, Debo, brilliant. I've got it. Okay. Repeating previous question. Thank you. And I apologise for technical failures. Adam in your team was great helping us out setting up LastPass G Suite for my business migration from Microsoft Office. Brilliant. Thank you. How can multiple people use the same login and save money on so many LastPass licenses? Also, I have issues attaching individual documents to an email from G Suite shared from a G Suite shared drive, which was never an issue with Office. Okay, so question 1 about how can multiple people use the same login and save money with so many LastPass licenses. So there's different, as I'm sure you're aware, there's different grades of LastPass. You can have the free LastPass, Premium, Teams, and then Enterprise. And there's one in between, I think, Business in between that now. The free one is, the problem with free one is there's no recovery. So for you, it's not for you as a business owner, you should never use it, because if you lose it, you lose it. You lose everything. The Premium, which is basically meant for individuals, that's a great option if it's just you, or you want to just share a few things and you're not so bothered about having such good control. The one we recommend is the business one, and we basically, for our clients, they can get a code, so they can just get 2 licenses. So it works out not a lot more than the Premium version, but gives you some great extra features. And the way you save money is that if you have permanent staff that are going to be around that you want to be able to manage really easily and share, create a user for them and share loads of things that specific user. And so then if they leave, you can literally just replace that person. Then yeah, having a the paid account for them as well. So as a user, it makes that much, much easier. However, if money is tight and you want to just basically have some of the features of the business version, but not have to get licenses for especially all your temporary staff, for example, you can still share stuff with them using the sharing center in LastPass, even if they have an account which isn't a user on your account. So you just share it externally. There's a setting in your in those security settings in LastPass that allows you to share externally. As long as that's switched on or switched off, whichever way around it is, you can then just share individual items with that person. The only annoyance is that you have to share them individually rather than sharing the whole folder, and that's where the teams are so much more powerful and easier to use. But if you really just want to just save money, you can just share individual stuff. So hopefully that answers your question. Second question was about attaching individual documents to an email from G Suite shared drive. I don't know why that's happening. I use G Suite all the time, or my PA does, and as far as I know, we've never had a problem with that. So I think it's probably something I'll pick up, and if need be, we can pick up and just have a session with that, because I probably need to actually have a look at your screen and see exactly what you're doing. So I just realised I'm sharing the wrong screen. So yeah, if maybe I'll pick that up separately. Without sort of seeing it live, I wouldn't be able to help you that, because as far as I know, it works absolutely fine. Cool, I've got another question here, and I've just seen, I think Debo's just passed another one. How can you, this is from Angela Leon, hi Angela. How can you set a track to check that the tenant has paid? Okay, how can you set a tracking system to check the tenant has paid? By the time we've realised a standing order has paid the landlord, we're out of pocket. Okay, so you must be an agent, and I presume, and you have landlords that you pay, but then you pay your landlords by standing order. I presume that's right. So I'm assuming that's right. So basically, I would suggest two things. If you use something like Go Cardless, it's an automatic direct debit taken from your tenant's account. I personally don't use this, but a lot of our clients do, because I don't take my own rents, just to be clear. So, but I know a lot of our clients that do this and very successfully. So Go Cardless, there's a small charge, but it means that the money is taken directly from the tenant's account on the day that it's due. If that doesn't happen, it automatically sends you an email on the same day to tell you that that tenant has missed their payment. So that's one way of looking at it. The second way is my letting agent only pays me after the rents are received by my tenants. So my tenants pay, and they pay me, and they then take their percentage of that. So they're never out of pocket. So maybe that you've got this standing order to try and save you some time, but if it's ending up costing you money, then it may be worth actually putting that step in place, that you wait until it's actually the money's in your account before you then make the payment. But Go Cardless could be an option for you, because then at least you could stop that payment, the standing order, to your landlords before it actually, because you realise straight away that sorry, I'm just reading, I realised there's questions all over the place now. So yeah, hopefully that will help anyway. That basically, using Go Cardless will hopefully prevent that from happening. Okay, let me just see if there's any more questions, because there's about 3 different posts on here that people have been putting things on. Okay, let me just go back up again. Okay, Angie, I can now see your previous comment. Thank you very much. What CRM do we use? We use HubSpot CRM. We are predominantly, the reasons we use a CRM in Systems and Outsourcing business is for sales and marketing purposes. So we want to communicate, send emails out, and get people to fill in forms, to download some free stuff that we send out. And so for that reason, HubSpot's brilliant, because it links to all the social media accounts, and we can post things from it, and it tracks everything really nicely and all in one place. So from that point of view, I think HubSpot is one of the best. It's quite expensive. However, if you're looking, because you've mentioned property before now, for property, for creating nice little pipelines, for taking people through a either property acquisition process or taking your team through a property acquisition process or an investor process of actually getting investors on board and taking them through to becoming a partner of yours, then Insightly is a really good CRM for doing that. And that's what I used to use in my property acquisition business, was Insightly. And Steve, again, this guy who's coming on doing the Q&A with me next week, he specialises in CRM. So he's part of this group. If you ping a message, Stephen Lai, and he can give you much more advice on that. And I'll try to remember after this, and I'll tag you guys together so you can have a chat with him about CRMs. Question here again from Angela. Do I have to make Google Forms or are they standard? Google Forms is just an app that allows you to really quickly make questionnaires or forms. So you literally, what's your name? Then the person types their name. What's your address? They type their address. So you can probably get some standard ones. I've never done that. We just make our own. It's just a 2-minute job. Whatever questions you want, get your assistant to help you do that. So if you've got any application forms that are currently on paper format and you want to put them digitally really easily, Google Forms is a great way to do that. And you can export all the results to a sheet by just clicking a button, and then you can use that by using something like Zapier, or by just importing that data into your CRM. You can then use that data for whatever purpose you need. But Zapier, so automation software, allows you to basically, whenever, say, you had a form live on a Google form live on your website, and they would then type in, the person would then type in, say the tenant would type in some details, or customer would type in some details, hit enter. You can use Zapier to then do something with that information. So pass it to your CRM, create a task in Asana, send you an email with that information in, and that way you can automate that process so you're not having to go manually check anything. It pushes that information to the next step in the process, or does whatever it is that they want to do. Caroline, I can see them popping up now. I'm not sure how delayed we are, but there we go. Oh, I think I can only see the last 4. That's the problem. So I'll have to keep a better eye on it. Okay, so I've just figured out, I'll know for next time, I've got to actually have the screen open at all times. So, do I rate Monday.com to delegate tasks to your team? I've never used it, so I can't tell you. However, like all of us probably on Facebook, I've seen the adverts. It looks very nice. I doubt it's as flexible as Asana. It's probably more pretty, and it's probably easier to get into initially, because Asana is absolutely brilliant, but it has a lot of flexibility and lots of customizability, and for that reason, that initial impression can sometimes overwhelm people. So if you're really anti-tech and you haven't got someone to help you, so that's one of the big things we do with our clients, is to show them and train them to be experts at using Asana, because of the power of it. But I understand that, the first time I ever looked at Asana, I literally just went, whoa, can't be bothered with this, and went and used Trello for 6 months. And then I realized the limitations of Trello and realized that actually Asana was the right thing for me, but I just needed to actually put some time into it. So yeah, I can't help you with more specifics on Monday.com, sorry. So I wanted to, if there's no more questions pinging in, let me just quickly scan up and down. Oh, there we are. Adam's jumped on and helping. Cheers, Adam. So if you've got any really techie questions, Adam, my business partner, who's also a tech genius, can answer them. So right, I'm going to go back to the questions I had earlier just to finish up that. So again, this is from Angela, and the question was, so I'm going to cover 2 things here. One is basically how can I remember the dates for doing stuff in my business? She uses the example of a property business, so gas certificates and electricity tests and recurring events and things. But this is relevant to any business, and we use the same process, same system for our property business as we do for our Systems and Outsourcing coaching company. So I'm just going to again share my screen. I showed it. It's really, really simple. So this is again using Asana. So if you've never seen Asana before, this is just going to be a whistle-stop tour, and I'll show you 2 key things. So I'm going to start by showing you this, because I think this will put it more into context. So this is what we call our employee task board. I'm sure we're not the only people to call it that, but that's what we call it. And in this board, it allows me to delegate and prioritize and monitor and manage work really, really easily. It's just a board which is this Kanban type board. Lots of apps that have these sort of things. Same sort of thing in Monday.com, same in Trello, same in, I'm sure Podio has something similar to this. You can in Asana, which is quite nice, you can flick it into this list type view if you're more of a list person than a board person. Just depends on the same information is displayed differently. And you can also put in a timeline as well, so you can see when tasks are due and what's coming up and put priorities and things like that. So Asana's improved a lot over the past couple of years and it's got some really nice features now. Some of these like timeline is a paid for feature, but the other thing, the board and the list are not. So really simply, if I had a new task, say I want them to just review this, something about emails, drop it into pending. If it's a priority, drop it into priority. If it's in progress, I can see what she's working on right now. If there's extra work required. And the only other thing I'd put in here, we have some additional columns, but your main columns are pending, priorities, in progress, and done. That's what you need. 4 columns, pending, priorities, in progress, done. And that basically covers most evils. A really, really simple way. And you can use any app to do this, but we like Asana. And then back to the previous question, which is how do you manage your yearly calendars? So you could, for example, have a shared calendar. So create a Google Calendar and then put all your events for the whole year on there and put the recurring ones on there and your 5 yearlies and whatever, and just have it there, and then someone would then have access to that and see what was happening. The thing I don't like about that is that calendar is just really notifying you that something needs to happen, but it doesn't tell the person how to do that thing. So you've got to then rely on something else to show them that method. So I like combining everything to as fewer apps as humanly possible. And so basically, there's a couple of reasons I prefer this to using a calendar. And this is just a list project in Asana. And I split it up into daily, weekly, monthly, and then each month of the year. And then you've got years coming up. So when you've got like things like 5 yearly electrical certificates, you can then pre-book them ahead. And then at the beginning of each year, the person would come down and then put in all the stuff that's relevant for this particular year, and then all the recurring stuff is there as well. And then when the month comes along, I'll just start a couple because I've got good examples. So here, for example, monthly, my PA checks that my letting agent has actually paid me my rent. So this is a monthly task. So this is assigned onto her board that you've just seen. So it's on here because this is like the master copy, but it's also on her board. If you can't see it, I'll just flick over. So she's got a monthly column on her board. And in there, she reviews that once a month or whenever it's due every month. And then we can set a due date if we wanted to for that particular month. And then she could then move the due date each month. And that allows us to then give her all the instructions on how she does that. So she logs in, she checks my bank account, cross-references with Xero, makes sure the money's in there. And then if not, she chases up the letting agent. So, sorry, I just need to have some water. So I used to have to do that, and I used to forget, and then sometimes the letting agent didn't pay for months, and it was a real pain, and then I had to chase them up. But now it's all just taken care of for me by my PA. And so, yeah, by having it in here, it's not only the reminder of when it needs to happen, it's also the instructions for doing it. It keeps everything in one place. Meter readings, this is just another example. So that was a full written out, what we call task template with all the instructions, and we have an acronym called DIDAC that we use to remember everything. So description, intention, pardon me, description, intention, deliverables, access, checks and time. And I'll cover that another day just to save time. What I was going to show you. Yeah, so this one here, alternatively, just record a video. So this is what I was talking about before about outsourcing tasks to using video. So this is me with a video showing people how to access the accounts on accessing the various accounts on LastPass, and then find the information they need from spreadsheets, etc. And so basically just teaching somebody to do work and giving it all to them via Asana. Was there anything else I wanted to show you? Fire alarm. So here, for example, this is just to show you that there's this one here, fire alarm test done annually. There's all the different properties, and then there's these variables that basically, depending on which property it is, there's different letting agents and different codes and things. And there's a sheet which then gives them that information. So when they basically email, this is an email, and they basically make this email, get this email, send it to the relevant contractor to be able to do this. And you could automate this if you wanted to, but actually my contractors when I did do a lot of the management myself, this is actually taken care of by my letting agent now. When I did do it myself, they used to change regularly because they just disappear. And so I do this manually to make sure it's getting sent to the right person. So that's how we manage all of our day-to-day and recurring tasks. Let me see if there's any more questions. Oops, that's the wrong view. Cool. Okay, cool. Do I use Google Calendar rather than ical? Do I use Google Calendar rather than ical? Yeah, a couple of reasons. I don't have an iPhone. Even if I did, I like having something that's totally cross-platform, and it's that because I host, we use G Suite for our business, then I just use Google for everything. I used to be a total Microsoft geek for many, many years. I did a degree in computing back in, I graduated in 2002, and I was at Microsoft for 15 years. And then I came over to Google. Nothing against Apple, I used to tinker with computers in the back, ripping them apart and putting bits in, and you can't do that with Apples. So I never bought into that dream. I actually have an Apple laptop now, but it's not an iPhone. But yeah, so for that reason, I think Google, it's just so easy and it's so user-friendly that I just stick with it now for everything. There may have been questions I've just missed as I was doing that. So if you asked a question before Sarah's question on Google, just ping it back in again and it'll come back up. Sarah, I like Asana Timeline. Not sure Trello has that. No, it doesn't, as far as I know. It's quite a relatively new feature. It has been there for a while for Asana, but it now become actually quite good, whereas before it had some real glitches. There's a great app called Instagant, which links directly to Asana, which is a more powerful Gantt chart, which automatically syncs with your Asana projects. So that's really cool. If you're a geek like me and you like Gantt charts and things, then that's a great add-on, and it's you can test it out for free, and it's very cheap. It's like £5 a month or something. Here's another question. Angela Leon again. Is there an alert that I could put on the tenant's payments of their rent so the standing order does not pay the landlord? No, standing orders just go out, I think, as far as I know, unless you've got very clever banking, which is why I recommend using something like Go Tenant. You could probably set up, it depends how you do your payments. There would be a way to automate this, that the payment is only made once a payment is received. It's not something that I have any experience doing, and it would probably involve some third-party payment software. Zero bookkeeping app would help you with this, from the management of all this and the chasing of rents, etc., and the issuing of invoices. But I'm not sure it would actually deal with the payments themselves. But again, as I mentioned before, the not Go Tenant. What did I say? What did I mention? The Go Cardless is the app that allows you to basically have direct debit set up into your account, which then immediately notify you when those are unpaid. I don't know when you pay your landlords, but I'd have at least 10 to 14 days after your payments are received to pay the landlord out, and just have that in your policy. One of my properties, that they pay on the 21st of every month, even though they receive the rent on the 1st, for these very reasons. Cool. Any more questions? Let me scan down the group and see if there's anything more. Cool. Any more questions at all? If I've not answered your question yet, it's literally because I've not seen it. So if you can just ping it in again. The last question I can see is Caroline Borg talking about Monday.com. I can only see 4 questions at the top. So if you've asked a question and I've not answered it yet, but you want me to answer, just copy and paste it back in, and I'll do that now before I run away and go and have some lunch. Let me know if there's anything else at all. There's always a bit of a delay, so I have these long pauses and then no one does nothing. I'm like, oh, now it's a really long pause, so I apologise. Okay, cool. If there's nothing else coming, just fire in now quickly before I disappear. But I want to say a massive thank you for everyone who's come along. If you find this useful, please comment below and let me know. Oh, here we go, we've got coming in. Debo, I'll come back to you right now. If you found this useful, please let me know. If you want me to do these again, let me know. I'm really happy to. It's fun. I love doing this stuff. This is what I love doing in my business. It's about teaching, sharing, and so this is the fun part for me. So if you want this to happen again, let me know. Ping a message in to this thread or to the thread in general. Let other people know about it, and I'll do more of them. Simple as that, really. Okay. So what's the most cost-effective CRM? For multiple businesses with multiple names. Debo, thanks so much. What I'm going to do is, tag in, see if I can do this. I'm going to tag in my good friend who I mentioned a couple of times, Stephen Lai. Simply because I'm not ducking it, but Stephen lives and breathes CRMs, and I don't. I'm a user of a CRM. I don't have any vast knowledge of them or different ones that are available anymore. I did a massive load of research on it a few years ago when I was choosing our first CRM. I ended up going for going specifically for Insightly. I had only one business on there at the time. I did have other businesses, but I didn't bring any other ones in there. So I don't know the answer to your question regarding multiple businesses, and multiple domains. I'd have to look into that. Angela, do they do that manually? Thanks, Debo, for your comment. Thanks, everyone else. Do they do that manually? I'm not. Which bit of that are you asking about? So the Go Cardless is an automatic payment taking mechanism that automatically sends you a message, an email, if they don't make the payment. So yeah, just clarify what you're specifically asking. I'm happy to give my thoughts. It's not something this is third party knowledge. It's not something I've experienced in directly dealing with. So I'm only sort of passing information on here. If you just put a message into this group and ask that specific question you've got, I'm sure somebody will jump on and help because they'll have more knowledge than me on this, specifically around taking payments, because I don't take any payments from my tenants. Debo, yeah, HubSpot, but cost prohibitive. Depends what you want to use it for. HubSpot, for example, isn't the best for email marketing by a long way. Something like Active Campaign or Insightly are far more capable with regards to creating sort of intelligent, non-linear email flows. So it depends on what you want to use it for. Again, it's not as visual as Insightly. So for creating pipelines, for example, for doing deal acquisition pipelines or investor acquisition pipelines, as I talked about, or just taking whatever it is your product or services through onboarding your clients, whatever it is, Insightly has a really nice way of visualizing that. So I would probably have a look at, if you've not already, have a good look at Insightly, unless you are purely a sort of using it for marketing purposes, in which case, yeah, HubSpot is very good because of its integrations with social media. But if you've got to really have time to invest into it. It also has quite a good sales functionality as well. But if you're a one-man band, the likelihood of you ever getting to grips with HubSpot in the short term is pretty slim. It's a huge learning curve. We divvied it up into 3 separate sections, and each one of us business owners took over a whole section ourselves. And it's still a large investment of time. So just be wary of that. There are simpler CRMs which will get you a long way down the road. And it's not, yes, it is a ordeal to transfer from one CRM to another. So sort of you could end up being stuck with what you start with, but just be wary of going too big too soon. I think we probably did, if I'm blatantly honest. And I think that we would have benefited from sticking with a more simpler CRM or a simpler system for what we want right now, then getting to a point where we're probably at, when we did it, but then getting to the point we're at now is about the time we should really be branching out into HubSpot. But it's chicken and egg. You know, when is the right time to invest in the software that's going to take you to the next level? And it's got to be well, when you can afford it for one, but maybe at the point where you find your current software is no longer suitable. But it depends on how deep your pockets are. Cool. Okay. Thanks, Angela. Yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad you found some of you found it useful anyway, and I hope the rest of you did. Haven't commented. Always an absolute pleasure to do this stuff. So as I said, yeah, please. I'll, by the looks of it, generally speaking, people seem to have had some value, had some really good interaction. So it's been a pleasure to do this, and I look forward to doing it again very soon. Cool. Thanks very much. I'll speak to you. Yeah. Cool. Cheers, Grant. I'll speak to you soon. Anyone else that's pinged the next 10 seconds or so, then I apologise, because when I hit stop, there'll be a bit of a delay before you hear what I'm talking about. Cheers, Caroline. Cheers, Grant. Cheers, Angela. Cheers, Sarah. And I've got to find the off button, which I've hidden somewhere. Oh, there it is. Cool. All right. Thanks very much. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Cheers.